Imagine what it would be like to live like a true Stoic, where obstacles don't throw you off balance, where criticism and frustration don't drain your energy, and your mind remains stable even when everything around you falls apart. It seems difficult, almost impossible, but it's doable. The Stoics weren't insensitive. They simply chose to act with clarity and discipline while the world around them lost itself in impulsive reactions. Today you'll learn how to achieve this, and by applying these teachings, you'll stop getting lost in justifications, anxiety, and self-sabotage. Not because life will become simpler, but because you'll become more resilient. Before we begin, I want to propose something powerful. Go to the comments and write, "Today I choose to live with focus and set aside distractions." This phrase will be your anchor point. It will be the beginning of a journey that can transform not only your actions, but your very essence. Now, take a deep breath. What comes next isn't fleeting motivation, it's inner strengthening. It's time to change course. Let's go. 1. Control your mind before the world does it for you. Close your eyes and visualize the following picture. You're in the middle of a bustling square, surrounded by voices, shouts, car horns, people rushing, notifications vibrating in your pocket. The whole world seems to demand your reaction, but there you are, motionless, firm, with your feet firmly on the ground and your gaze turned inward. This is the image of inner mastery. Not a supernatural power, but a conscious choice. Mastering the mind doesn't mean silencing your thoughts, but rather not being swept away by them. It's being aware enough to notice when automatic impulses invade you, that hasty judgment, the useless comparison, the emotion that takes over without asking permission. Those who don't watch their mind are ruled by it. You can change your house, city, body, profession. You can surround yourself with books, mentors, courses. But if you don't learn to control what's happening inside, the world will always find a way to unbalance you. An undisciplined mind becomes a dark room where any sound becomes a storm. Stoicism doesn't demand immunity from suffering. It invites us to be greater than pain. Not by ignoring it, but by giving name, place, and measure to what we feel. Instead of running away, the Stoic sees emotions as messengers. He listens, understands, welcomes them, but doesn't hand them over to the helm. The mind is like a river in flood, it can destroy or nourish, depending on how carefully we manage its banks. By monitoring your thoughts, you notice patterns. Fear doesn't arise out of nowhere, it's rehearsed in mental repetitions. Anxiety doesn't fall from the sky, it grows where there's internal disorder. Discouragement doesn't appear by chance, it feeds on broken promises to oneself. You must guard what allows you to grow within. Each cultivated thought becomes a belief, each belief shapes your attitude toward life. A simple "I can't do it," repeated too often, becomes destiny. So, observe what goes through your mind when you wake up. What are the first words you say to yourself? How do you treat yourself behind the scenes of your consciousness? Are you your own enemy fighting invisible battles? Mastering the mind also means taking pauses, creating spaces between stimulus and reaction. Someone provokes you? Breathe. Something loses control, observe. Feeling like giving up? Embrace it, but move on, because you know it's not what you feel that defines you, but what you choose to do with it. The mind isn't controlled just once, it's constant training, returning to center, redirecting gently and firmly. You will get lost, you will fail, but the more you practice, the faster you find it. The freedom so many seek outside, in relationships, money, travel, begins with a silent decision, not to let the mind sabotage, poison, or distance you from yourself. It begins with humility, looking within and saying, "I am willing to govern myself," because in the end, it's this: either I master the mind or it masters me. 2. Stop reacting, start responding wisely. Imagine someone provokes you with sharp words, trying to drag you into an emotional conflict. Instead of exploding, you breathe, look into the person's eyes, and choose silence. Not because you agree, but because you refuse to be dominated. This is the power of Stoicism. The difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is immediate, visceral, letting the world dictate your behavior. A criticism becomes an attack, a mistake becomes shame, a delay becomes a catastrophe. When you react, you're not in control, you're on autopilot, guided by patterns that may not even be your own. Reacting is being a puppet of circumstances. Responding, on the other hand, is a conscious act. It's the space between what affects you and what you choose to do. A sacred pause to decide, not just act. It's the moment to remember that you don't need to be a slave to any emotion, not anger, not haste, not fear. The Stoics knew this. Epictetus, who was a slave and became a master, said that the problem isn't what happens, but how we interpret and react. It's possible to endure offenses without absorbing them. Today, the call remains the same. Eliminate what weighs you down, what holds you back, what has lost value. Rediscover the strength that springs from silence, from lightness, from the essential. Because sometimes, to achieve more, all you need is to reduce. Number 6. Cultivate gratitude until it becomes part of your daily life. Have you ever noticed how the mind tends to chase what's missing, instead of appreciating what's already there? How it's more natural to complain than to contemplate. More common to notice flaws than to recognize gifts? It seems we're always searching for something, never truly present. Stoicism doesn't treat gratitude as an idealistic feeling or something only for good days. For the Stoic, gratitude is a practice, an exercise in attention, a conscious choice to focus on what's present, even when the heart tries to sink into regret. Practicing gratitude is fine-tuning your gaze to notice what already works. The body that breathes, the food on the table, a sincere conversation, the chance to try again. It doesn't mean denying the pain or pretending everything is fine, but recognizing that, even in suffering, there is something worth being thankful for. Sometimes, just for standing, other times, simply for being alive. You don't need to wait for great things to be grateful. Life's greatest treasures are often hidden in the small details. A hot coffee in the morning, the sun streaming through the window, an unexpected message from someone who cares. The bed at the end of a hard day. The laughter that emerges amidst exhaustion. All of this is life. All of this is the gift. The Stoics knew that gratitude doesn't depend on perfect situations. It is, in fact, what prepares the mind to navigate difficult times with clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal, even during wars and losses, because he knew that the mind needs direction, and gratitude is a way to guide the focus to what sustains it. That's the secret. What you focus on grows. If your attention is on lack, you will feel more need. If you focus on chaos, you will feel more fear. But by training your attention to what is good, even small, even discreet, you will feel more peace, courage, and energy. Daily gratitude isn't made up of ready-made phrases or end-of-year posts. It's presence. It's in the middle of a difficult day that you stop and realize, there is still beauty here. It's remembering when faced with a problem, I have tools, I choose. It's exchanging automatic complaints for conscious thought. I've faced worse, I've overcome them before, and now I can too. This practice transforms because it improves the quality of your inner world. And when your inner world changes, the outer world reacts. Not by magic, but because your posture changes, your energy changes, your outlook opens to possibilities where before there were only barriers. Seneca said that nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart. And he was right, because a grateful heart is not naive. It is strong, it sees the pain, but also the learning. It knows that everything passes, but while it's here, there's always something to celebrate. So, start today. Practice gratitude like you strengthen a muscle. When you wake up, say 3 things you're grateful for. When you sleep, repeat the gesture. During the day, even in chaos, say to yourself, there's something good here too. Over time, this silent practice will shape your spirit, and the world will seem less dark. Not because everything has changed, but because you've learned to see light even in the shadows. Number 7, act with virtue, even when no one is watching. There's a silent anxiety that consumes millions daily, the need for everything we do to yield results. If it doesn't generate applause, recognition, or immediate feedback, it seems worthless. We live as slaves to other people's thermometers. The quality of what we do has come to be measured by its results, not its intention. Stoicism breaks with this. For the Stoic, acting right isn't a strategy to reap something, it's a life choice. Results may or may not come, be fair or unfair. But virtue, honesty, courage, justice, moderation is always within reach. Act with integrity even without an audience. Act with justice even if the world rewards the opposite. Act with courage even if fear overwhelms you. In the end, what defines you is not what you achieve, but who you choose to be along the way. Have you ever felt empty after achieving something you desire? Have you noticed that reaching a goal doesn't always bring peace? The problem isn't the achievement itself, it's placing all your identity in the fruit, forgetting the tree that you are. How many times have you given up because you didn't see quick results? How many times have you abandoned a good path because it seemed too slow? We are addicted to immediacy, and so we fail to build what is essential, a coherent life. Acting virtuously is being solid in an unstable world. It's doing what's right even when there's no advantage. It's understanding that your value isn't in numbers, but in maintaining integrity under pressure. This isn't easy. You'll be tempted every day to trade principles for gain, manipulate, lie, act out of fear or greed. Because culture says, win at any cost. But philosophy teaches, live with honor, even if you lose. In the end, who you listen to determines who you become. Epictetus said that true progress begins when you stop caring about what others think and start caring about the judgment of your own conscience. This changes everything, because it takes you out of the shop window and puts you in the mirror. What do you do when no one is watching? With what intention do you help, work, speak, choose? Are you trying to prove something, be accepted, conquer, or act truthfully? Living virtuously is having the courage to do good without expecting reward. It's choosing the difficult path because it's the right one, not the quickest or easiest. And that is already a victory that the world doesn't always recognize, but that your soul feels. Virtue is the only thing no one can take away, neither failure, injustice, nor time. It is your root, shelter, and legacy. If the result comes, great. If not, may you have the serenity to know you acted with integrity, because there is a peace that success cannot give and only virtue can offer. Number 8. Make silence your strongest response. There is an empty, silent, disconnected silence, but there is another, full presence, where you find yourself, without haste, masks, or distractions. It is this silence that the Stoic cultivates, not to escape, but as a foundation. In today's world, where everyone shouts, speaking less and listening more is inner strength. We live surrounded by external and internal noise, news, notifications, demands, comparisons. The mind rarely rests, it is always too busy to hear what matters, what is happening within you. This is where silence becomes training. Silence is not silence, it is tuning your ear to listen better to yourself. Creating space between impulse and response, stimulus and choice. In silence, you see yourself more clearly, perceive patterns previously muffled by noise. And, most importantly, you discover the right action, not the immediate one, but the one that aligns with who you want to be. The Stoic doesn't use silence just for rest, but as practice. They awaken in silence to prepare their spirit. They reflect in silence before acting. They retreat into silence after failures, not to punish themselves, but to learn. When they speak, they do so not on impulse, but with intention. Those who learn to be silent choose their words better. Silence is also a response, perhaps the most powerful. It doesn't need to win arguments or convince. It reveals maturity and where there is still noise. Those who are silent with wisdom don't hide, they position themselves with presence. And in this, something extraordinary happens. The mind slows down, the heart stops chasing approval, and you inhabit a space where you don't need to prove anything. A space of awareness, alignment, clarity. Silence reveals what noise hides: true intentions, ignored emotions, unnecessary words, worthless battles. It offers a mirror more honest than any opinion. And when you face this with humility, you realize that much of what seemed urgent was just noise. Seneca said that whoever can be silent within themselves will never be alone. Because this silence is not loneliness, it is a foundation. In it, you learn to listen to yourself, and by listening, to understand yourself. And by understanding, you begin to act more wisely. But be careful, silence becomes practice when it connects with action. It's not enough to be silent and continue acting on impulse. True silence precedes conscious choice. It's the interval where you breathe, observe, understand. Practice lies in this space. Start small, 5 minutes a day without distractions. A coffee without a cell phone, a walk without headphones. A moment before replying to an email. Silence lives in these simple gestures, and from them arises a strength that the world doesn't understand, but that you will feel. Life is noisy, but you don't have to be. Make silence a practice and discover the power of acting without noise, but with depth. Number 9, cultivate perseverance, not motivation. There are days when everything flows. You wake up inspired, productive, ideas come easily. And then, without warning, the difficult days arrive. Those when getting out of bed is a struggle, each task weighs 3 times as much, your spirits fade, the world loses its shine. It's on these days that historical philosophy shows its value. Motivation is volatile, dependent on mood, climate, and results. It's a fragile flame that the wind easily extinguishes. But perseverance is solid. It doesn't depend on will, it depends on decision. It continues when everything calls for a halt. The Stoic acts not out of will, but because it's right. He knows that great deeds are born not from fleeting enthusiasm, but from discipline in the face of exhaustion. Greatness lies in constancy in the face of challenge. How many times have you started something full of energy and given up when it faded? Motivation propelled you, but the lack of it brought you down. This is common, because we've been trained to act only when we want to, not when we're faithful to a purpose. Perseverance is a muscle of the soul and requires daily training, in small gestures, in routine, in discomfort. It's doing what must be done, even without encouragement, recognition, or immediate reward. Seneca said that the greatest courage is enduring defeat without losing heart. This doesn't mean not feeling pain, but not letting pain dictate your path. Perseverance is moving forward with tears in your eyes, but with firm feet. It's knowing that, even without guarantees, each wholesome step builds something internal that no apparent victory can offer. Motivation may start the movement, but perseverance sustains it. And this comes from clarity of purpose. When you know why you do what you do, bad days stop being excuses and become part of the process. Training perseverance is fulfilling commitments even without enthusiasm. It's waking up early when you want to sleep more. Studying even when you're tired. Taking care of yourself even when your mind wants to run away. It's not rigidity, it's fidelity to yourself, your path, your values. Furthermore, perseverance generates self-respect. Every time you fulfill a promise to yourself, something grows stronger within. Over time, this respect is worth more than external praise, because you trust yourself. Even in storms, the world celebrates those who begin, but Stoicism honors those who persist, because it is in continuity that character is born, and character sustains the soul when everything roars. Therefore, don't wait for willpower, wait for clarity. Don't seek euphoria, seek solidity. Don't chase motivation, cultivate perseverance. The flame of motivation dies out. The strength of perseverance comes from within. Number 10. Choose your battles wisely. Not every provocation deserves a response. Not every argument is worth your energy. Not every injustice calls for confrontation. There is a profound maturity in knowing that reacting to everything is losing yourself in nothing. And the Stoic knows this. Don't shy away from a fight, but choose where and when to fight. Have you ever been exhausted by petty conflicts? By aimless conversations? By trying to prove something to someone who doesn't want to listen? It's easy to get involved in wars that inflate the ego but empty the soul. This is where Stoicism calls for a pause, a reflection, a decision. Each time you get involved, you invest time, energy, and peace. But resources are not infinite. That's why you need to discern. Does this elevate me or just wear me down? Does this fight bring me closer to my values or just trap me in old habits? Choosing battles isn't weakness, it's emotional intelligence. It's knowing that dignity isn't proven by shouting, but by actions. It's recognizing that you don't win by arguing with those who only want to win, but by retreating in silence from those who don't want to understand. And this silence is sometimes the noblest response. Seneca reminds us that insults don't hurt if we don't lower ourselves to retaliate. True strength lies in maintaining integrity when everything calls for a reaction. It lies in maintaining calm when an explosion is expected. It's about saving energy for the battles that matter, that shape character, not inflame pride. The world is full of distractions disguised as urgent causes. And if you don't see it, you start fighting in the name of vanity, self-protection, the need for control. But the Stoic doesn't waste his peace on occasional battles. He asks himself, does this fight transform me or just tire me? There are internal battles that deserve priority. Controlling impulses, overcoming procrastination, staying focused, acting with kindness even in anger. These are worthy struggles, because every inner victory reflects on everything you touch on the outside. But when you're too involved with the external, arguing, justifying yourself, reacting, you lose connection with what truly matters, building a more stable, calmer, more lucid self. And this construction requires silence, it requires retreat, it requires intention. Choosing your battles is also choosing your destiny, because every conflict you incur shapes who you become. And if you spend your life fighting for everything, you end up fighting for nothing, or worse, you become exactly what you once swore you wouldn't be. So, stop, observe, discern. Some battles are invitations to the ego, others to evolution. And between the two, the difference lies in your level of awareness. You can lose the argument and win the peace. You can give up the last word and maintain your dignity. You can refuse war and emerge stronger, because your energy is sacred. Knowing where to deposit it is one of the purest forms of wisdom. Number 11. Nothing is yours forever, not even pain, nothing lasts. Not pain, not joy, not even life itself. Yet, we live as if the now were eternal, as if the situations that hurt us were forever and moments of happiness were guaranteed. We cling to what is changeable and suffer because we forget. Everything that exists is in motion. Everything, without exception, will pass. This remembrance may hurt, but it is also liberating. Because by accepting the transience of things, you stop resisting the flow of existence. You learn to savor what is good without the illusion of possession. You learn to endure what is difficult without the despair of eternity. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Time is like a river made of flowing events. You barely see something and it's already gone, and something else comes in its place." This image of the river is powerful. Everything you experience now is flowing away, both pleasure and discomfort. Your task is not to try to freeze the moment, but to immerse yourself in it with presence and detachment. When you forget that everything is temporary, you cling tightly to what should only touch. You try to hold on to people who no longer belong in your path. You grieve losses as if they were the end, when in fact they are merely transformations. You want immediate answers to pains that need time to heal. But when you remember impermanence, something changes. Anger begins to be seen with more lightness. Fear dissolves into perspective. Anxiety weakens because you understand that this moment, whatever it may be, will end. And this brings a strange peace. A peace that doesn't depend on control, but on surrender. You begin to appreciate what you have while you have it. You begin to look into someone's eyes with more presence, listen more attentively, touch with more truth, because you know there may not be a later time. Maybe this hug will be your last. Maybe this chance won't come again. And instead of paralyzing you, it awakens you. The awareness of transience is not an invitation to despair, it is an invitation to depth, to intensity without attachment, to presence without illusion. It is living each moment as if it were unique, because it is in doing so that you become whole, not because you master time, but because you dance with it. Everything that afflicts you today will one day be just a memory. Every loss, no matter how devastating it seems, will be a scar. Every achievement, no matter how glorious, will be overcome or forgotten. And this doesn't diminish their value. It simply reminds you not to define yourself by them. Impermanence is the only certainty, and those who embrace it stop living in denial. They learn to flow, to let go, to begin anew, because they understand that nothing is guaranteed, neither what they love nor what they fear. And this awareness makes them lighter, more grateful, more awake. Today you may be experiencing chaos, but it will pass. Tomorrow, perhaps, you will celebrate a victory, it too will pass. The question is, do you navigate it all? With despair or wisdom, with resistance or acceptance, with attachment or presence? Remember, everything that begins ends, but what you learn, what you become, remains, and that's what matters. Number 12. Observe yourself every day without condemnation. Have you ever noticed how cruelly you speak to yourself? How harshly you judge your mistakes, as if you have no right to fail? How you internally repeat phrases you would never say to someone you love? This harsh, impatient, overly demanding gaze, far from generating growth, often paralyzes. The Stoic doesn't seek perfection, he seeks progress. And progress begins with a difficult but essential step, looking within yourself honestly and without condemnation, because no one changes what they refuse to see, and no one sustains lasting change driven solely by guilt. Observing yourself without judgment is an act of courage. It's like turning on a light in a very closed room. You'll see dust, you'll see clutter, you'll see old marks, but you'll also see space. Space to reorganize, to clean, to start over. What paralyzes you is not the mistake itself, but the way you view it. When you constantly judge yourself, you distance yourself, create shame, resistance, self-sabotage, and begin to hide your flaws even from yourself. But when you learn to observe yourself with kindness and firmness at the same time, you begin to build a deeper bond with yourself. A bond that allows for real transformation. This isn't permissiveness, it's not turning a blind eye to what needs to be corrected. It's, in fact, the opposite. It's looking head-on, with sincerity, with presence, with responsibility, but without the harshness of a wounded ego, without the pressure of an unattainable ideal. Epictetus said, "No one is free unless they are masters of themselves." And to be masters of yourself, you need to know yourself on all levels, recognize impulses, patterns, and wounds. Admit where you stumble, where you repeat yourself, where you still lack maturity, and from there, take action one step at a time, making a clearer choice, a mindset more aligned with who you want to become. Evolution doesn't happen in shouts, it happens in the silence of small observations. The moment you realize you've reacted impatiently and decide to breathe, the moment you notice you're sabotaging yourself and choose to keep going. The second you acknowledge you're afraid, but still move forward. This kind of constant, intimate, honest attention is what transforms. Not a major shift, but the accumulation of small agreements with yourself. Because you don't evolve if you hate yourself, you evolve when you commit to your own truth. And this commitment requires vigilance, a sharp but not cruel inner gaze. Because what you see in yourself with compassion has a better chance of being healed. What you reject tends to repeat itself. What you embrace can be redefined. Observing yourself is getting out of autopilot. It's ceasing to be a slave to your own habits. It's exchanging "I'm like this" for "I'm learning to be different." And this learning process is daily, never ending, but over time it becomes lighter, more conscious, more truthful. So, before you put so much pressure on yourself, ask yourself, am I observing myself or just punishing myself? Am I listening to myself or just repeating old criticisms? Am I helping myself grow or just feeding my insecurity? Looking at yourself wisely is the beginning of freedom, and true freedom begins within. Number 13. Cultivate inner strength in the simplest routines. There's an illusion many harbor, that strength is only revealed in great challenges, as if courage were reserved for tragedies and discipline for high-impact decisions. But the truth is different and more demanding. True strength isn't born in chaos, but in repetition. It isn't forged in noise, but in the silence of your ordinary days. The Stoic doesn't wait for life to fall apart to train the mind. He understands that the soul is strengthened in the simplest routines, in the daily choices no one sees, in the way you wake up, in what you think before getting out of bed, in the way you organize your thoughts throughout the day. Inner strength, the kind that sustains character, is cultivated in the ordinary, because that's where the true self reveals itself. You get up early because you know that discipline begins before the sun. You eat what you need because you understand that temperance is more powerful than momentary pleasure. You talk less and listen more because you've learned that silence teaches. These aren't heroic actions, they're habits consistent with who you've decided to be. And that's where the difference lies. While many wait for the motivation to act, the Stoic has already begun. While the world celebrates great victories, he honors small loyalties. And when chaos arrives, and it affects everyone, he's already prepared, because the invisible training of simple days has made him unshakable. Seneca said, "If you want your soul to be strong, it must be tested." But this test isn't always a crisis. Sometimes it's boredom, sometimes it's constancy. Sometimes it's resisting the temptation to abandon a practice because no one will notice anyway, but you do, and that's enough. Every daily choice is a seed. You can cultivate sloppiness or integrity. You can drag yourself through the morning or plant your foot with intention. You can give in to impulse or remember who you want to be. It's in these moments that your philosophy ceases to be a concept and becomes flesh, a gesture, an action. What seems small, like making your bed, eating mindfully, taking a deep breath before speaking, is actually the foundation of your inner architecture. And when this foundation is solid, no storm can knock you down completely. Stoic strength is born there when you say yes to what strengthens you and no to what weakens you. Even when you're alone, even when no one applauds, even when everything seems too repetitive to matter, but it does, because everything that is made with presence, it shapes character. You can build temples of power within your routine. You can make the morning a ritual of alignment. Work and exercise and focus. Rest an act of self-respect. And this commitment to the simple, the invisible, the constant, transforms. Don't wait for big challenges to become strong. Become strong now in the small choices, in the repetitions that no one celebrates. And one day, when life truly tests you, you will realize you are strong. Not by chance, but because you prepared in silence. True strength is not shown, it is lived, and it begins with the first gesture of the day. Number 14. Don't wait to lose to appreciate. Time has a silent way of teaching us. It takes people, opportunities, strengths, phases. And only then, in the echo of absence, do we realize what we had. It's almost cruel. When the table is full, no one notices the simple dish. When the body functions well, no one appreciates the firm step. When someone is always there, presence dissolves into the everyday, until one day everything changes. And what seemed banal reveals the sacred, too late. This is one of the mind's great deceptions, postponing gratitude. We live as if everything were guaranteed, as if the days were endless, the bonds eternal, the affections unshakable, but nothing is. And the sooner you accept this truth, the more deeply you will be able to live. The Stoic knows that loss is not the exception, it is the rule. Everything that is given can be taken away. Everything that seems right today may disappear tomorrow. And there's no control over that. But there is a choice. To be whole while you exist. To not wait for someone to leave before appreciating their presence. Have you ever regretted not saying something you felt? Have you ever blamed yourself for not paying enough attention? Have you ever wished you could go back and act with more affection, more care, more time? These pains are common because our conscience awakens with absence. But the Stoic trains his mind to awaken sooner. He cultivates presence as a remedy against future regret. Marcus Aurelius said, "You may not live until dawn, so act now as if it were your last chance." This phrase isn't a somber sentence, it's an invitation to lucidity, because the truth is that every person you love is here indefinitely. Each day of health is a rare gift. Each conversation could be your last. And when you face this with maturity, superficiality disappears. You begin to listen more attentively, to touch with more intention, to be grateful for the hot coffee, the knowing look, the comfortable silence. Every small gesture becomes a celebration, and this doesn't require speeches, just presence, just the commitment to actually being where you are. Don't wait to lose someone to realize how much of a blessing that routine was. Don't wait for distance to recognize the importance of a connection. Don't wait for the end to wish you had done things differently. Emotional maturity begins when you decide to value the in-between, the now, the seemingly ordinary. Because deep down, you know, life is made of endings. And when they arrive, what remains is the memory of how much you were present, how much you loved without reservation, how much you cared without waiting for a reason, how much you recognized the value of things before time took them away. Nika said, "You act as if you were destined to live forever, but time passes, and it really does, without warning, without pause, without return." Hence the urgency of being here with truth. Valuing what you have today is an exercise in humility. It's accepting that nothing is yours. Everything is on loan. And the noblest way to honor this loan is to treat it with reverence, with delicacy, with gratitude. Embrace more slowly, look deeper, say what you feel, listen with your heart. Make your daily life an altar, because one day all of this will be a memory. Then be a memory without regret. Number 15. Become your own guide. In a world where everyone seems to know what's best for you, where advice abounds and certainties are sold as absolute truths, there is a silent and transformative wisdom in turning inward. Not to isolate yourself, but to listen. Not to close yourself off, but to find yourself. Because there comes a time when if you want to live with to be authentic, you will need to learn to be your own guide. How many times have you acted driven by others' expectations? How many choices have you made to please, to fit in, to avoid confrontation? And still you felt empty. Because no matter how much the world applauds, if you are at odds with yourself, no amount of applause is enough. Stoicism teaches that the source of guidance is within you, that the highest criterion for your actions should be your conscience, not external approval. That the true master is the one who listens to themselves honestly and corrects themselves courageously. Becoming your own guide isn't rejecting the world, it's filtering it. It's listening to advice, but not selling yourself short. It's recognizing that there are paths already taken, but remembering that yours is unique, that no one knows your shadows like you, and no one can inhabit your light in your place. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And being master of yourself begins with the habit of consulting yourself before deciding, of silencing external noise to hear the truth that pulses within, of asking yourself, does this bring me closer to who I want to be? Am I choosing out of conviction or fear? Does this expand me or nullify me? You will make mistakes, you will hesitate, you will get confused. But over time, if you are faithful to this process, your inner voice will gain clarity, it will become your compass. And when faced with doubt, you will know, I can trust myself. Being your own guide also means being responsible, stopping outsourcing blame, stopping waiting for rescues, accepting that even in the face of the unexpected, you have a choice and that each choice builds a step up or down. It's difficult. Simply because it requires vigilance, self-analysis, and the courage to defy what is expected of you. But it is this difficulty that makes the path worthwhile, and in the end, it is this path that makes you whole. You don't need to know everything. You just need to decide that you will no longer live on autopilot, that you will listen to your intuition, that you will align your actions with your principles, that you will walk even in fear, because you trust what you are building within. Being your own guide isn't about being perfect, it's about being true. It's about having the humility to learn from others. But the determination to not abandon yourself in the process is about falling and getting up, saying, I chose, and I can choose again. In the silence of your conscience lies your compass. In fidelity to your values lies your freedom. And in the constant practice of listening, adjusting, and following lies your evolution. Number 16. Be consistent even when no one is watching. Most people only act when there's an audience, when they know they'll be seen, valued, and recognized. But Stoic philosophy invites us to something much deeper, to build character in solitude, to be true to ourselves even when there's no one to applaud, because it's in silence, in the invisible, in the ordinary that true inner strength is born. It's easy to maintain discipline when there are immediate results. It's difficult to persist when everything seems immobile. It's easy to stick to a plan when everyone is encouraging you. It's difficult to continue when the world is celebrating and you're training in silence, but that's where the fleeting is separated from the lasting, enthusiasm from maturity, the drive from purpose. How many times have you stopped because you felt discredited? How many times have you looked in the mirror with doubt just because the world didn't confirm you? How many times have you abandoned what would make you grow just because no one noticed? Constancy, that silent virtue, is the remedy for vanity and the antidote to self-abandonment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't waste any more time arguing about what a virtuous man should be. Be one, but being one requires repetition, and repetition requires humility. Repeat what is right even when the world is distracted, even when progress is slow, even when only you know the effort you are making." Consistency is like water that carves rock, invisible at first, but undeniable over time. It doesn't impress, it doesn't attract attention, but it transforms, because it is what sustains the invisible construction of your integrity. You can fail, everyone fails, but what makes you different is the ability to start over without drama, to insist without an audience, to get up without fanfare. Every time you stand firm when everything calls for giving up, something inside you strengthens, something aligns, and this alignment is reflected in everything you touch. Being constant is more than a virtue, it's a way of life, it's waking up with intention, even when emotion fails. It's doing the right thing because it's right, not because there's a reward. It's staying true to your own process, even when it seems to be fruitless. Consistency doesn't have to be perfect, it has to be alive. It needs to resist fatigue, overcome boredom, survive doubt, it needs patience and direction. And, above all, it needs self-love. Because only those who truly love themselves are able to stand firm, even when the world doesn't give anything in return. The Stoic trains for difficult days. He trains to be strong when no one is watching, to not depend on motivation, the weather, or attention. He is constant because he knows that each faithful gesture today is an invisible brick in the construction of a more whole self tomorrow. It's not about being noticed, it's about being real. And being real requires constancy. I sincerely hope this message was helpful. I want to sincerely congratulate you for making it this far and completing the video. This means you want to improve as a person. If you liked the video, leave a comment. If you don't know what to say, comment "thank you." That way I'll know you watched until the end. If you're not yet subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? Subscribe now and join us. Stoicism is full of teachings like this that are applicable to our everyday lives. Therefore, I encourage you to continue learning about this philosophy. Here are 2 videos filled with historical wisdom to keep you learning. Until next time. Have you ever felt like you were navigating a sea of uncertainty, searching for a compass to guide your way? If so, I have a special invitation for you. Imagine having a mentor, a teacher who can offer the guidance and support you need to find your direction. I'm delighted to present the ebook Arte Stoica, Stoic Art. More than a book, it's a companion on your journey of self-discovery. This guide was carefully crafted by us at the Stoico channel to help people like you who seek guidance, clarity, and purpose amid life's complexities. I invite you to join this adventure of self-discovery and personal development. Allow yourself the experience of having a teacher by your side, guiding every step of your journey. Don't wait any longer. Click the link below and get your ebook now. Join us on this journey of self-discovery and discover how Stoic philosophy can illuminate your path.